I would like to invite the distinguished representative of Spain, to put her question to the candidate.
Muchas gracias, señor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Madam Khoury, Lacoeuilhe, I would like to touch on a couple of points that haven't been covered that much in the interviews, but that are very important to Spain. The natural sciences sector. This is something that's really only been glossed over. And here, it's my understanding that both Agenda 2030 and the Paris agreements, and this is something that the distinguished representative of Nigeria was mentioning yesterday, they include the SDGs when it comes to the environment, right? So I would like to hear your vision when it comes to UNESCO's contribution through the fundamental instruments that it has, the IOC, of course, a Man in the Biosphere program, IHP. So how do you see UNESCO and the role that it should be playing in this field? Thank you.
Madam Khoury, Lacoeuilhe, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. The natural science sector is definitely linked to many SDGs. If I'm not mistaken, it's SDGs 4, 6, 13, 14, 15. But I think when I look at the C5, that they have spread too thin. And they might want to focus a little, because they have spread like over every target in every SDG, and I'm wondering whether it will be possible to deliver on all this. The science sector is an important niche for UNESCO. This is a place where we have added value. The basic sciences, they're going to be crucial for innovation, science, technology. Again, because of the issue of algorithm and hard math. So they're going to have to work with education. The problem is that the way the C5 is presented, it doesn't at all encourage intersectoriality. Now, IOC is independent, but has also to work with the others. And IHP, MAB, their problem, because they have some, despite their importance, is that as intergovernmental programs, what they produce doesn't reach grassroots. It stays at a level that does not reach the decision makers. And this is something we have to deal with. And this is something having to do with silos in the member states, and where national commissions will have to play an important role. Now, on the issue of how to link, to work with the SDGs, well, we have to work with others. I think it's going to be crucial to link with the other UN system and coordinate our action and decide. That is why I say that we should look again at how we spread ourselves in the Science Center. I think there should be meetings with the UN entities who have also are also interfering on the same SDGs, and look at the added values of each entity. There are places where we can lead and others can contribute, places where we feel very strong. And I think the oceans, despite UN Ocean, I think in the oceans we can lead and others can contribute. There are places where other can lead and we can contribute. We're very strong on water, but there are 37 entities working on water. We have to coordinate because overlap is going to be catastrophic. And there are areas where we simply should do nothing because we are not placed well enough to do anything. What really matters is impact. We really have to make impact on the ground, and this is our biggest problem now, because we produce a lot of intellectual input. It stays hanging in the air. It doesn't reach the ground, and on the ground, we're not delivering as well as we should do in many areas. So with everything we do, we have to look at the beneficiaries and how are we going to be able to have impact, and how are we going to measure this impact? Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to invite the distinguished delegate of Oman to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the concept of luck. Madame Al-Khoury, as you said, titles are not important, and you just presented us with many solutions and ideas. Enterprising leaders promote transformation and innovation. Would you please give us an example of an innovative solution you proposed to tackle a non-traditional problem? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Madame Khoury, Lacoeuilhe, the floor is yours.
Well, I don't know whether the problem is traditional or not, but the solution I really want to bring is the one on how to deal with intersectoriality and how we're acting as silos. The SDGs are totally interlinked. All our global priorities and our priority groups, they're all transversal, intersectorial, but we still work in silos. And the C5, as I was saying, the way it is presented reinforces this a lot. If you look at the structure of the Secretariat, it is practically like the structure of the C5. The sectors, the units are practically linked to main lines of actions or to expected results. And you have these people sitting in their team, in their unit, not sharing information, protecting their budget, protecting their program, which means that there is no visibility of risk. There is no way of sharing knowledge. And this is impeding the implementation of the program completely. Now, in the past, I used to think we should get rid of the sectors and come up with some thematic units, but then you realize that you will create new silos, and silos within the silos, as we have now, and that this was not going to be a solution. And in fact, the silos are in the minds, in the staff. The staff members don't know each other. I've discovered that some of them in the same sector don't know each other. So I think what we need to work on is more anthropology and sociology rather than management, and find ways to connect the staff. And the way to connect the staff is to take these expected results that are very transversal, like the SDGs and the global priorities, and to mix teams from the different sectors, to put them on an expected result so that they can claim the budget together, they can claim success together or fail together, and this way you will mix staff little by little between the sectors. So what we need to do is not get rid of the sectors, because in such a complicated organization with such a complicated mandate, you need to organize expertise. There is a need to organizing expertise, but what we need to do is budge the walls between the sectors. When we organize trainings, we need to organize trainings from people from different sectors together, different grades together. Why not open an inside Facebook page to the staff where they can meet, exchange ideas, exchange good practice, put problems for others to help them solve. This is, I think, the way forward. Really work on the staff, count on the creativity of the staff, and make the staff share information so that on issues like the SDGs, youth, gender, priority Africa, all these transversal team, SIDS, were not SIDS have been put only in climate change, as if the other programs do not concern them. So I think this is the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to invite the distinguished delegate of India to put a question to the candidate. Micro.
Thank you, Chair. Madam Lacoeuille, may I begin by complimenting you, even though this is not the conservative approach, to your very erudite responses to some of the questions that we have posed to you. In the same vein, let me ask you a question on politics, and I expect an equally erudite response. Politics continues to plague UNESCO. We're sick and tired of it, frankly. Do you think that the time is right now for UNESCO member states and the Secretariat to form some sort of a mechanism whose mandate would be to raise the red flag every time an issue gets politicized at UNESCO? And I say this because as a founding member, India is very clear that politics was not the deal. But we have it here all the time to the detriment of some of the activities and programs of the organization. And I ask this question simply because you have used in your vision statement a very interesting word, which is typically Indian, jugaad. So what jugaad, what innovation do you propose here? What is your take on the proposed mechanism? Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Candidate, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. I function on jugaad. It's my state of mind, and this is the state of mind I would like to inspire in this organization, because I think it works. Now, I'm very disappointed because the innovation I was going to propose, you just said it yourself, but I will elaborate. I think, first of all, we should be careful not to think that because we don't want to depoliticize the organization, that the organization is not political. It is. It is political and has, of course, a technical side to it. But it doesn't prevent us from having political debate. This organization is an intellectual organization where we should be able to discuss everything in a respectful manner and a professional manner. Debate. But then when we get to our work and our action and our programs and our delivery, even if our subjects are all political, I think it is our responsibility, and it's goodwill also from the member states, not to exacerbate the political aspect of issues, because they all have a political aspect. But I think we should concentrate, as I said in my vision, on what unites us. We have objectives that are important to all of us. Let's focus on that. Let's let the organization do its work, and let's not paralyze it. And what I wanted to do is to create a kind of warning alert system, like the tsunami warning alert system, within the Secretariat, where wherever there is an item that could potentially become a problem, I take it over immediately and I deal with it immediately, because I think it is the role of the Director General to mediate and to find common grounds, to find solutions, and to find the solutions before they reach the member states where it's already too late. And this is something I really intend to do. And this is something I was taught by Mr. Francesco Bondarin. When I was going to chair the World Heritage Committee, he asked me for a meeting and he told me, I want to teach you how to deal with the bombs and the mines. He said, the bombs, we can see them immediately, very easy to deal with, but you have to be careful about the mines because you can't see them until you step on them. So we want an early warning system to see the mines. And I will do my job and will take the responsibility to find consensus. And I can do so because I'm sure everyone wants to find solutions, but you have to be able to do so. To be able to do so, you need to know the organization. You need to know its texts. You need to know its conventions. You need to know its programs, because it's something to come and say, I want to negotiate, but you have to propose something. And to propose something, you need to know. And this is what I've been doing for the past 20 years, finding solutions for our problems with our subjects. So I think on this issue, I can bring member states together, because I have been sitting here for the past 20 years listening to all of you. I know the sensitivities of each country, the sensitivities of each region, and I think this is a great advantage for anyone who wants to find solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Gostaria de convidar o delegado distinguido,
I would like to give the floor.
the distinguished delegate of Brazil, to put a question to the candidate.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Ms. Lacoeuille. As you know, SDG 17 of the 2030 Agenda is focused on mobilization of new partnerships and the sharing of knowledge, expertise, technology, and financial resources, in particular in developing countries. It encourages and promotes effective public, private, and civil society partnerships. How do you intend to introduce and foster new and solid partnerships while at the same time promoting UNESCO's mandate, normative instruments, and decisions of its governing bodies? Which UNESCO's asset should be emphasized to attract new partners within the private sector, the civil society, and the donor community in general? Thank you.
Thank you. And Madam Khoury Lacoeuille, you have the floor again.
Thank you very much. SDG 17 is a critical SDG because all the others depend a little on it. So I think all UN is going to be very actively leveraging partnerships. And the first danger is that we're going to start walking on each other's feet. So first thing we have to do here again is, instead of get into turf battle and compete on resources, try to coordinate as much as we can. And sometimes we can leverage big partners together and each one do his share. Now, you spoke about technologies. I think we have to make a full use of it. Again, I bring back my e-knowledge platform, where we can leverage expertise from all over our networks and all our institutes, all our scientific networks. And I'm proposing a tender for delivery institute, which will enhance a platform, sorry, not institute, no new structures, to enhance our capacity to deliver. And this platform will not replace the staff, but we have a serious capacity to deliver. We are not a development agency, but we still implement on the ground. And we have seen in the past few years, sectors, like last year, the sector of education gave back money to donors in the middle of a financial crisis because they couldn't implement within the deadlines. So with this platform, we could tender to civil society, to private sector, while of course keeping quality assurance, evaluation oversight in-house. But we could, for instance, ask a startup in Kenya, a startup specialized in mobile learning, to implement a project in mobile learning for us in the region. There are huge opportunities, and I think we should not hesitate to use them. Crowdfunding. I've sat with people who gave us ideas. I mean, it's nothing new, really. UNICEF has been doing it for years. I don't understand why we can't do it in UNESCO. It's true. Everybody tells me, yes, UNICEF is the children. The message comes to the heart immediately. But we have messages that come to the heart too. Girls' education is something that everybody is interested in. Our world heritage destruction is something everybody's interested in. Now, our campaign on United for Heritage, it wasn't for fundraising. It was for awareness raising. And it was very good in raising awareness. It couldn't have worked as a fundraising campaign because it's a question of timing. And this is what professionals would tell you. You cannot, when heritage is being destroyed, but all around it, people are being killed, you cannot ask public to give you money for heritage. They're going to give the money for humanitarian relief for people. So all is a question of timing. That is why we need to professionalize fundraising and communicate also in a different way. It's an era of show me, don't tell me. We can't communicate on initiatives anymore. We have to communicate on what we do, show what we do, so that we get people interested. Like another platform where we ask people to tell us what do they think are the most important things we should do to evaluate our programs. This is a simple way of communicating with social media and letting people discover what we do and discover what they think. The opportunities are huge. We just need to think out of the box. Juga again.
Thank you. Wow. Well, I would like to invite the distinguished delegate of the Netherlands to put his question to the candidate.
So you wait long, but then you get twice in the meeting. Just a short question. You already touched upon it, but maybe you could say a little more about UNESCO's position within the UN family. I don't want to discuss the family relations, but do you think the relations in the family are still okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Candidate, please.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for this question. As I said, I have had the privilege of being member of the independent team of advisors established by ECOSOC. And during 2 years, we have worked very hard. We've gone to the field. We've been to Geneva to meet with all the heads of agencies. We've met with the heads of funds and programs. We spoke to resident coordinators, and these 2 years were extremely enriching, and it was really an eye-opener. So our mandate was to make recommendations on how the UN development system could deliver better, be better positioned for the 2030 agenda. And our first conclusion was that there was no UN development system. There are silos, and each one working on his own. And a lot of turf battles between the heads, a lot of ego problems, and we made several recommendations. What was missing was a kind of a horizontal strategic framework that would bring everyone together to see what is everyone doing and how we can better link with each other. So one of the recommendations was to make the QCPR more strategic and have everyone linked to it. You know that funds and programs link to it automatically, but agencies are autonomous and they are not compelled to do so. But if I'm elected, I would present for you a proposal to link to the QCPR, not to become integrated within the UN development system, but to coordinate better with the others, because I think it is going to be crucial for delivery, and we are part of this UN family. So we have to be present in New York, talking to each other, knowing what is happening, doing our part everywhere, and in New York and in the field. What we discovered in the field is that it depends on the country. If there's one delivery, it works. If it's in UNDAF, it depends. For instance, many I have spoken with, I asked them, how do you work with UNESCO? And the answer is, well, we don't. And I said, and why not? I said, well, we don't know how. They have nothing to put on the table. There were two exceptions. There were two field offices that were mentioned all the time as really doing what needed to be done. Bangkok and Santiago. And both of them, we were told that they were given as examples, and I was very proud. We were told that these two offices didn't have a lot of resources, but they had a very strong intellectual input, and they took intellectual leadership, thematic leadership, so they were very present with the others with this thematic leadership. So there is a problem of coordination, and as DG, if elected, one of the first things I would do is meet all the other heads of agencies and see how we can work together. Member states want result. They don't care who claims success. They want things done. And what we should be doing is delivering, not fighting against each other. I'm very proud to say that the Secretary General and the DSG are now implementing many of these recommendations, and the DSG is implementing a very difficult one on the resident coordinator, so that the resident coordinator doesn't have only a UNDP loyalty, but a UN loyalty. And this will help in bringing all the other agencies together, maybe in a more inclusive way. Thank you.
Thank you. Je voudrais bien inviter le...
I would now like to give the floor to the distinguished representative of Cameroon so that you may put your question to the candidate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Vera Lacoeuilhe, just one question for you. You have written that UNESCO, in order to be effective, has to do whatever it takes to be a high-performance agency, and that it should have a real impact and its results should be measured. Now, I'm going to talk to you about something where it's very difficult to measure results, especially when it comes to the implementation of standard-setting instruments. So do you think that you could do anything to ensure that universal declarations, sometimes adopted here at UNESCO, could become something more than just nice, beautiful ideas on the ground, so that the people who are on the ground have something that they can do to implement these declarations? The human genome springs to mind, the humanistic use of scientific research, etc., safeguarding things for future generations, ethics questions such as that. That's my question. Thank you.
Et je donne...
I shall now give the floor back to the candidate. Madame Khoury, Lacoeuilhe, you have the floor. I thank you for that question. To start with, I'm convinced that everything can be measured. You can measure things quantitatively, but you can also do it qualitatively. I think everything can be measured. That being said, it's not always easy to measure certain things. And when we talk about impact, it's not necessarily something that's easy to measure, especially within the framework of some of our programs. But nonetheless, I believe that everything can be measured. And for everything else, we're talking about long-term impacts. But nonetheless, we have developed indicators. And we have to know where we're starting from, right? The starting point. And then we have indicators to tell us whether or not we're making progress. The declarations that you've referred to, and what I'm about to say doesn't apply just to those declarations. Roundtable discussions, conferences, reports. We produce a lot. There's a huge intellectual wealth here that we produce in UNESCO. But where things come to a grinding halt is when it comes to finding a way of transforming all of this into concrete steps on the ground, concrete actions. When it comes to our conferences, our roundtable discussions, I think that there's a way that we could fix this, and it has to do with the way in which we organize these events. Instead of saying, I'm going to organize a major conference on radicalization, we have to start off by saying, what is the specific topic? What's the specific problem that I want to fix? What's the real problem? What am I asking panelists to come and help me find solutions for? And then once we're focused from the outset in that way, we actually have something that might be a usable result afterwards. We always have to think upstream about how we're going to use the outputs of all of these conferences downstream. So all of this intellectual input doesn't just remain unused, sitting on a shelf somewhere. The declarations, we've adopted declarations for a long time now. If they haven't been implemented, it's because there's a problem somewhere. Perhaps this is the type of thing that we should put back on the table and try to understand what the problem is. Perhaps the declarations aren't easy to implement. Perhaps they need to be amended. Perhaps they need to be dusted off and modernized. Or perhaps some of them are completely obsolete now. I think that we have a broad range of instruments that are like this. They're in our cupboards, in our drawers. We have to pull them off, take a look at them, dust them off, see how germane they are or not. And I think the Crew Committee is doing an excellent job right now going through all of our different standard-setting instruments. And some of these don't have their own intergovernmental committees to take charge of them. Nonetheless, they do have to be reviewed, modernized if necessary, amended if necessary. It's a bit like the one that has to do with the mutual recognition of higher education qualifications. That's one that's very important. So we have to go and look at all these things, try to find out why they're not being implemented, and then come up with solutions.
Merci.
Thank you. I'll take the last question from the bottom of the vase.
I would like to invite the ambassador, the distinguished delegate of Korea, to put his question to the candidate.
He changed his mind.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome, Madam Vera, back to UNESCO. And I will give you a very relaxed time. I prepared very treacherous and very difficult questions, but I pick up very easiest one. How do you describe your leadership style? And that means, what kind of leadership do you think is needed for UNESCO at the present day? For example, dictatorial, charismatic, or consensus building? So more specifically, suppose that a majority opinion of member states differs from your own on a certain issue, but you believe that you are right. Say no to them?
Seems to be not so easy. So I would like to invite the candidate to answer. I don't.
Mr. Ambassador, this is a very tricky question because you are describing me when I was 30 years old. I'm not going to tell my age now on the website, but I have changed. And I know how to work with member states. And of course, when there's a majority of member states that do not want something, I will never impose it on them. This is an intergovernmental organization. The decision belongs to the member states. The job of a director general is to propose, and member states decide. If they don't like, I'll come back again with something different, hoping that it will be accepted. I'll modify after having listened to you and understood why the first one wasn't accepted. And I'll keep coming back until we have something that is accepted by all of you. Now, my kind of leadership is certainly not dictatorship. I believe in teamwork very, very much. And I want to hire people that know more than I do, because if they don't, I don't need them. You know, Steve Jobs used to say, we hire people so that they can tell us what to do, not to tell them what to do. And a real leader gives control, doesn't take control. I want to empower the staff. I want to give them responsibility, but there will be accountability. You can't have responsibility without accountability. And the staff knows a lot. All these problems with the procedure, with the heavy bureaucracy, they have the solutions. They just need to be listened to. And I think a good leader listens to his staff. You know, in my case, to her staff. But we are tempted to prefer to listen to those who agree with us. And this is how you make mistakes. So my kind of a leadership is going to be inject passion, inject motivation again. I'm a very passionate woman. I cannot work otherwise. And I think it is contagious. And I think the staff is empowered. And if with all the management, you give them an environment where each one matters, they will come to work very happy to work. You know, the redeployment exercise that we had because of the financial crisis was very difficult for them. Some of them who were specialists in a field were moved to a job where they knew nothing. You can imagine psychologically what this means to a staff member, to come every morning to work and not know what to do. I mean, feel incapable, incompetent. So all these issues should be remedied. And as I said, the staff members, they're not a number of posts in the budget. They're human beings who come into these buildings and in the fields to work every day. And we're in all this together. So they have to come happy to work, and they have to be motivated. And it's when we have a motivated staff and we establish trust, because you will have full transparency. You will be bored with me. You will not be able to go to the corridors to pick information and find stories. I will tell you everything. We will be in this together. We all fail together or succeed together. This is my kind of a leadership.